There we go. We should be live now.
Awesome.
Good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing? Go ahead, Lloyd. You were about to say something before
I did the last episode of my podcast like this.
Why?
Actually, with a lot more brightness. I'm not getting any color from here. I don't know. I just felt like it. So I turned off my main light and I just had my brightness pumped up. So I was picking up some pink from here and some blue from here. So it was like matching my logo, and it looked like super, I don't know, retro wave, I guess, super like cyberpunk looking. And I'm like, I kind of like that look. I might have to do all my shows that way.
Was it noisy, like the background?
No, not really at all.
Oh, that's awesome. Because every time I don't have my lights like insane like I do, although today I've got the window open, which is a little bananas. But every time in fact, I should probably shut off the light on that side of the room. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, every time that I don't have my lights all crazy, the background looks really, really noisy. And it might just be because I have a fancy camera and I don't know how to use it. Like, that's probably the culprit, is that I'm just like, I don't have the experience. So, all right.
That could be. I mean, a C920 is pretty noisy, even in the best lighting conditions. So I didn't notice it being much noisier than normal.
Yeah, that's true. My C920, which is my Skycam, which most of the time, like the Stadiacast people, they never see it because I don't have it in these scenes. But when I'm doing one of my Twitch streams or recording Nintendo Switchcraft, the Skycam is usually what people see while I'm getting ready. So it's like way up near the ceiling, and it kind of shows this area of the room behind me. And I know that you know this, Lloyd, because you go to those shows, but a lot of these people in chat don't. But yesterday when I was recording Switchcraft, like, it didn't even turn on, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" And I just assumed it was broken. And then after the stream, I shut off OBS. I turned OBS back on. It worked fine. So I was really confused.
Yeah, when we started the call this morning, I didn't have a video. All I had to do was go to my computer, unplug my camera, and plug it back in, and it came back up. So, yeah, I don't know, dude. Computers are annoying. I wish I could do this without a computer. I wish I could just the internet would just suck in my video, and I wouldn't have to have all this stuff set up, because it's just the computer get in the middle is always the problem.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, we got a bunch of people here. I'm gonna say hi to Dot Stripe. And Timon. Is Pumbaa here? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Florian Zal. I love YouTube names because they're real names, but they're always like, I don't know. No, I know nobody named Florian. You know what I mean? Like, I love that. Julian Sharp is here. Kevin is Kevin Stennard Body. Sanjay Siam is here. Spud. Hello, Spud. I like that name. Raymond Lacklustra. Raymond Lacklustra sound that, like, the last name makes me think of, like, he doesn't think very much of himself, and I don't think that's like, I think, Raymond, you're awesome. Don't get down on yourself. Shivendra Singh, Milos. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. It has all kinds of awesome, like, little marks over the letters, and I don't know how those work. Daryl Smock Jr. is here. Memento Ludi, Tea Boiling Films, Stadia King. Hello, Your Highness. Florian says stop using Windows. You're looking at a Mac guy right there. He's a big Mac guy, and it just doesn't work very well for streaming. So that's why he uses Windows. And I'm a big Mac guy, but I switched away from Macs because of video games mainly.
Switch to Chrome OS. No, I kind of want a real operating system. I don't want a web-based one that loads Android apps.
I will say this: I have used Chrome OS on my Chromebook, and I like it a lot for most things. But if you have to edit video, if you have to edit pictures, if you have to edit audio, Like it all falls apart when you are a creator. And Lloyd's a
Mhm.
programmer. It's like most IDEs won't run, they don't run in the cloud, which is, that was really frustrating. I decided, I don't know, like 5 years ago, I was going to teach myself how to code.
Mhm.
And so I had a Chromebook because I don't have a MacBook. My wife has a MacBook, but I didn't want to use hers because it's old and slow. Um, I had a Chromebook, and I was like, I'm going to teach myself how to code, and because I didn't want to always be trapped in this room when I was working on it. So I kept, like, I was trying to learn Python, and I found some IDEs that would work on Chrome for Python, but it was always this huge hassle and just never
Right.
really panned out the way that I wanted. That's one thing that Google should do, for Stadia, is they should not just do games. They should also, and we haven't started the show yet, people. So this is just for you guys that show up early. Um, they should also do like development kits, IDEs and stuff like that that run in the cloud, and then maybe Lloyd would say yes to Chrome OS. Maybe.
I mean, I've used Chrome OS on a Chromebook, but it's not. I mean, it's. I'd rather use iOS. I'd rather use iPad OS if I'm going to use something that isn't Windows or Mac. It's just, to me, it's not. It's not functional for what I want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It works for millions of people, and that's fantastic. There's a lot of comments. Have you ever used Linux? Yeah, like I used Linux back when it took 20 hours to recompile the kernel on my 486. Like I've been using Linux since Linux was Linux. It just, when you're trying to deal with streaming and stuff, you kind of really, you have to use Windows. Like all the software works best on Windows. All the hardware works best on Windows. Not to say that you can't stream on Linux and you can't stream on Mac. It's just, it's the best on Windows.
Yeah.
As for
Go ahead.
as for just an OS, for me, Mac OS is the best operating system for productivity for me, because my whole family can use it and I don't have to do tech support. And that is, when you do that all day, that's kind of what you want to do. So there are other options there, but just not good for what I need to use it for, sadly.
Right. And you'll never hear Lloyd and I say that those are not usable. They're just not
Mhm.
usable by us.
That's
Um,
right.
and that's for me anyway. I can't, like, I would very much prefer to use Mac. I like the Mac operating system a million times more. I have an iPhone, I have an iPad, I have an Apple Watch, and my life would be easier if my main computer was also a Mac. It just doesn't work for me because I'm a streamer. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe with Stadia that'll all change, because with Stadia I won't need to have the streaming software anymore. Who knows? Anyway,
Exactly.
I think it's time that we start to make an MP3. Are you all set with that?
I am all set.
All right. Let me hit a button, and then another button, and then a third button, and then a fourth button just for good measure. Hey everyone, welcome back to Stadiacast, episode 28 of Stadiacast. Oh
Wow.
my goodness, 28. I'm Bill, that's Lloyd. What's going on, Lloyd?
Not much, man. We're talking about operating systems in the chat room. It's been a fun morning.
It has been a fun morning. It's a beautiful day out, and I want to get this done so I can go outside. So let's get started. But before we do, we record this show live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. So head on over to youtube.com/Stadiacast and hit that subscribe button. Hit the little bell icon so you can be notified when we go live or when we post new videos. I actually posted 2 videos this week. Lloyd is currently completely buried in work, so he can't post videos right now. But he said that, you know, when he gets more time, he's going to try and post videos to the YouTube channel as well. But it's not just for the podcast anymore. Now that we're getting more news, more things going on, you expect to hear hear from us on our YouTube channel more often, especially shorter format stuff, because that's a complaint that a lot of people were levying at us, is that they think that we have good information, but they don't have time to sit down for an hour show. And I can understand that. We're all busy people. If you want to support the show, you can do so by heading on over to anchor.fm/Stadiacast and click the support this podcast link. For as little as $1, you can help us create future episodes of Stadiacast. Another way that you can support the show is if you're here for the live stream, you can use that super chat feature, and that directly supports the show as well. So Lloyd, our big news this week. What's our big news? You want to tell everybody?
Our big news
Everybody
is
already knows.
we finally have a date. We finally have a date. We know when it's coming out. It's coming out November 19th, Bill. I am so excited. We also know that they're going to be sending out those kits. Once we get our shipping email, we'll probably get another email that says, hey, you're a founder. Why don't you go over here and register your name? So a lot of the comments and questions that we had prior to last week has all been settled, which is a really good thing.
So let's talk about that date. How did you react when you heard that date, Lloyd?
I assumed it was going to be in the middle of the month, so the 19th is right around the middle of the month, so that's pretty bang on. But there was the little part of me that is used to system rollouts and software rollouts and game releases that thought it would be like the last possible day in November because they need as much time as they could possibly have to get this thing ready.
Are there 31 days in November or 30?
30.
30? Okay, so November 30th is what Lloyd was assuming. Lloyd, however, will not, like, I'm going to try. Is that a Tuesday? That's a Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah, that's a Tuesday. So my goal is to stream from Stadia on that day. That's my goal anyway. We'll see how it goes. If I get my Founders Edition before the launch date, who knows? We really don't know if we're going to receive this stuff like before the launch date, and then when the launch date we can finally turn it on, or if it's going to start shipping and some people will get them on the 19th and some people will get them on the 20th and some people will get them on the 21st. But my goal is to Technomagic in chat is saying a good point. We're going to get an email that will let us know when it's arriving. Obviously, I haven't gotten my email yet, but when it does arrive, I plan on streaming. Unfortunately, Lloyd is not going to be able to stream because he's going to be out of town on business, right?
It's such bad timing, man. I leave for a business trip the Monday, the 18th, and so I won't be home. So if my package arrives on Monday, I'm SOL. But if my package arrives like on Saturday or Friday, the previous Friday, but the servers aren't live, then I can actually do one of the things that we talked about in one episode, which is use Stadia from a hotel, because I'll bring my Chromecast Ultra, I'll bring my controller, I'll put it in my luggage, and then hopefully I'll arrive with it still in my luggage, and then I can try streaming from a hotel room. So we'll see, man. Maybe it'll make for some good content, but we'll have to see.
So Google, if you're listening, and we know that they do, but if you're listening and you want to, help Lloyd out. He's one of the hosts of Stadiacast. Help him out. Make sure that he gets his on Monday. Wait, what day are you leaving? You're leaving on Monday.
18th. Yeah.
All right. So make sure it arrives before then so he can take it with him. I mean, for crying out loud. Wouldn't that be a wonderful advertisement for your service that one of the hosts is using it from a hotel and it's just working great? I don't anticipate it working great in a hotel, honestly.
It'd be fantastic. If you want us to test out your new Pixel phones as well, it would work fine from that while I'm traveling. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's like the worst possible time for it to drop for me personally. But I know it's going to be the best possible time for probably 99.9% of people out there. So I'm super hyped for the 19th to come and get some Stadia going, man.
Me too. All right. Another thing that kind of came to light this week, and I know that there's some people who say that this is not news, that we've known this all along. And to those people, I say, show me when they told us this before. Is this confusion related to the controller? So essentially, I put out a video earlier this week about this, but the controller has to be, well, will only work wirelessly if you are playing on your Chromecast, and otherwise it needs to have a USB cord attached in order to in order to work. God, words are hard. So there was a lot of confusion this week, and honestly, it is definitely Google's fault with the confusion on this. There was a lot of mixed messaging. So, for instance, this all came from a little, not caption, what would you call a disclaimer? A little
Yeah.
disclaimer that was on the video that showed the controller, and then they said, it said, you can only use this. I don't remember the exact words, but it said you can use this wirelessly on Chromecast at launch. Otherwise, you need USB. And for me, I was like, wait a second, is that? Oh, that has not always been the case, or at least they've never told us that before, which I thought was very, I don't know. I found it to be irritating because I don't like cords ever. Like, I have a corded mouse, I have a corded keyboard, I got rid of my corded keyboard. I got a cordless keyboard now. But I have a corded mouse, and if it wasn't so expensive to replace this with an exact same mouse that was without a cord, I would do it because I hate cords. So
Yep.
the idea of sitting here in what I call the nerd nest, that's my studio, and playing with a corded controller, that is very like, I don't like that. That irritates me. But the messaging has been all over the place from Google themselves. So, for instance, Lloyd, you want to read this message from Grace from Google, she's one of the moderators over at the official subreddit.
Sure. So Grace from Google types in, "Hey there, Stadia community. There have been some confusion swirling around Reddit and other social media platforms about how exactly the Stadia controller is going to connect to various screens. We want you to know that the Stadia team is and will continue to work diligently on to regularly add new features to Stadia. And as you would expect, the platform will continually evolve over time." I'm having problems with words too, Bill. At launch, the Stadia controller will connect wirelessly to the data center so you can play your favorite games using Chromecast Ultra on your TV. To play on your PC, laptop, tablet, or phone at launch, the Stadia controller will need to be wired via USB connection. We are working to add wireless options for those endpoints soon after launch. We will be regularly communicating with gamers as we continue to add additional features and benefits. Hope this clears things up. Grace from Google.
All right, so that came through yesterday, but the day before, somebody had sent me some screenshots of a conversation that they had with Google Stadia on Facebook, apparently.
Yeah.
And basically, Stadia says, "Hey Jack, yes, this am I on the right thing? Yes." It says, "Hey Jack, yes, the Stadia controller will show up as a regular USB HID controller, and most games should be supported." So then Jack replied, "Unless using the controller with a Chromecast, the Wi-Fi features of the controller won't work. Why is that?" And then they replied, "You can use the controller to play wirelessly on all screens, TV, computer, phone, and tablet, and wired through USB cables on computers, tablets, phones. Wireless gameplay requires Wi-Fi, and all gameplay requires an internet connection." So then Jack replied again. They said, we really should have gone back and forth with, you could have been Jack or something. Take over for Jack.
I lost where you are because I've been
So-
chatting with the chat room.
Oh, okay. Jack says, "So the Wi-Fi feature where the controller connects directly to the Stadia servers will work regardless of the device that I'm using?" And Stadia replied, "Yes, since it uses Wi-Fi to talk directly to Stadia in the cloud." So Google, which is it? This is so confusing and needlessly so. Like, even your different, the people who are talking for you don't understand what's happening here. And this is just something that Google always seems to fall into. They are bad at messaging. I feel like they're great at making stuff, but they're just bad at messaging. So
Yeah.
the last thing that was posted was the thing that Lloyd read from Grace at Google. So I'm assuming that is the definitive answer.
Sure.
And how do you feel about this? I mean, first off, it's just at launch, so they're saying that we're going to be bringing that stuff later on. Go ahead, Lloyd.
Sure. Well, before I get to that, they also released an amazing Google 101 Stadia 101 video when they announced the release date, and
Hmm.
that was like the most concise 1 minute of this is what Stadia is that they've ever released, which is we've been asking for on the show for a long time. Like they need to get their messaging down. That video was perfect. So congratulations to everybody at Stadia, the Stadia team, for getting that out there, because it says this is a way to play the games you buy without having hardware within 5 seconds. And if you, right near the end, it's like, and if you pay for Pro, you get 60 frames a second at 4K resolution and you get free games, blah. That's all it was. There was no confusion about Netflix of games or any of that other garbage that has been plaguing Stadia since their initial launch. So congratulations on that messaging. This messaging is a little bit odd, and I just it's probably something that everyone assumed. Even people at Google that are working in their support team just assumed you have a Wi-Fi controller, it's going to work Wi-Fi everywhere, but you can plug it in through USB-C if you want. Turns out that's not the case. It's, to me, it's kind of interesting. Like the thought as to why this is happening to me is interesting, and I wonder if it's because there's some back and forth talk from your client. So if it's just sending you a YouTube video and you're just using like a standard browser to look at the video on your device, maybe there isn't the ability to have some talk back and forth to say, yes, I'm on a phone, and yes, I know that my controller is connected through Wi-Fi. Maybe there's some communication that's happening there that it's not going to be available at launch. So it makes me wonder if maybe there's going to be a Stadia app on your phone other than the one that you use to set up Wi-Fi controllers and all that stuff, but just like a Stadia receiver thing on your phone and PC that's going to do that crosstalk. Or maybe it has nothing to do with that. Maybe they're just trying to lock down specific use cases just to make sure that, okay, if you're using it on a TV through Wi-Fi, this is the data set that we're going to go on, and if you're using it on every other device, this is another data set that we're going to use to tune our service. It's always interesting when there's new technology like this to kind of figure out the whys of why they're doing something. But as you said, Bill, it is very confusing. Basically, because their messaging is this is controller's Wi-Fi. It's going to give you the least amount of latency possible, and you're going to love it. And then we find out that it's only available on one platform at launch.
I muted myself. Sorry about that. I think that the thing that I think you're right about them trying to, they're experimenting, and some people have said, and they've hit the nail on the head. We are beta testers at this point, and
Definitely.
that's totally fine. I'm okay with being a beta tester. I just think Google needs to work on their messaging a lot, but I think that you kind of hit on experimentation, and I'm a science teacher, and I was teaching a sixth grade class earlier this week, and no, it was last week, and we were testing. We had like these big buckets of sand, and we were dropping a mass from various. We were dropping a mass into the sand and seeing how big of a crater that made, because we were talking about how craters are made on the moon and stuff like this. And I promise I'm going to link this back in a second. My students were like, I make them come up with the experiment. Like I talk about, I show a picture of the moon, and then they have to come up with what's the experiment going to be. And of course, I kind of nudge them in the right direction. And then they're like, "You had this sand all along?" I'm like, "Yeah. I knew you were going to pick this as the experiment." So, but they want to test everything all at once. They want to test, what if we change the size? What if we change the mass? What if we change the height? What if we change the type of sand? What if we change this, that, and the other thing? And they want to do all that at once. And I have to rein them in and say, no, hold on. We have to change one variable at a time. And that's what this screams to me, that Google is trying to do it so that they are only doing one variable at a time. And once they get the data back from this one variable stuff, then they can unlock it to the wider thing. And this is what screams to me that we are the beta testers. And
Yeah.
that doesn't bother me that we're beta testers. It surprised me that we're beta testers, and I don't know why. It shouldn't
Right.
have surprised me.
I mean, it's pretty common, like using more agile development methods where you have kind of A/B testing going on. Google does that now on their website and in some of their apps, where some people get this version of the app, but most other people get some other version of the app, or a version of Google's homepage or Google Gmail or something, right? And they're just trying one little bit of a difference, one small change to some small subset of their users, and it's pretty common. Like all modern websites for apps like Facebook, social apps like Twitter, stuff like that, they do this kind of like compartmentalized testing. But it is kind of weird to see that with hardware. So I think that's the one thing that is kind of making me a little bit confused. But we already knew that for the first 3 months we're in the founders beta phase, because it's not going to be released for the masses until sometime in 2020. So it's not super surprising. I'm gonna have fun with it. I'll be okay using a USB connection to connect it to my computer. I'm okay with that. But hopefully shortly after launch, we'll be able to switch everything just to using Wi-Fi, because it's going to be, as you said, not having wires is way more convenient.
Not just convenient, but also supposedly, according to Google, the least amount of input latency if you're using Wi-Fi for your controller. So there's that as well. Before we hit the next story, we've got some people to thank because they are super chatting us like crazy. You guys are amazing. CMR Sentinel says, been a fan for months, love the show. Keep making more videos as well as the podcast. Thank you very much for that. Anthony Talcott says, because even early this morning, you guys are at 10, and they super chatted $10. Thank you so much. And then Maximilian Knows says, seeing you guys live for the first time, that's the least one good thing about being homesick. Get better soon, man. Keep up the great work. November 19th, I can't wait. And then finally, Sukatronic didn't do a message. They just threw $1 at us. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. All right, you want to hit this next story, Lloyd?
Sure. Stadia tweeted out, laid all on the track to become a Supercross champion when Supercross 3 arrives on Stadia. And this is a great image with Monster Energy. So it's extreme, but this is a really fun looking game. I don't really like motocross games. I've played them forever, like way back to like PlayStation 1 era, but this one looks just ridiculously fantastic. Like the particle effects, the light effects, like it looks like the dirt is sculpted when you drive over it. And I don't know, maybe this is going to be a game that's going to show kind of like the big physics model that you can have in a new video game that's coming out. So, well, I'm not personally super excited about this. I know there's going to be a huge number of people that are really excited about it. Plus, you could be a kid at a Monster Energy press release, according to the video that they're just showing.
I remember when I was in the Army at the time, and my roommate had gotten this game. I don't remember what the name of the game was, but it had come with a Microsoft, I think it was a Sidewinder controller, and we played that game so much. It was not a dirt, it wasn't like a Supercross game. It was a dirt bike game, and you're just riding around in like it almost felt like an open world and going over jumps and doing tricks and stuff like that. And I always thought that was really, really fun. I have to be honest, outside of that, the last time that I played a motorcycle style game was, I mean, outside of Mario Kart, and I hate the motorcycles in Mario Kart, but was probably when I booted up Road Rage on my RetroPie. So I booted up Road Rage, Road Rash? What was the old Sega game?
Yeah, Road Rash, where you punch people?
Road Rash, not Road Rage. Yeah, Road Rash, where you punch people. But this looks really good, and I'm not excited about it for me per se, but I'm excited about it for all the people who love this genre. Now they're going to be able to play a game in this genre, and they're not going to have to buy fancy hardware to do it. And that's the promise of Stadia, because there's some people out there who love this kind of game and only this kind of game. And going out and buying a $400 piece of equipment for one game is very irritating, I'm sure. So they're going to be able to play this on whatever device they want. Maybe they'll have to be wired or not, but What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Oh, I lost it. Lloyd. Where was I? I started.
Sidewinder controllers.
It doesn't matter. Let's move on. I'm not going to buy it, but I bet you that it's going to sell very, very well. This is we skipped over a story, Lloyd, and it's probably a pretty big story. Yeah. This one. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Okay. So let me go into the notes. Just make sure we're talking about the same thing here. So we had the controller confusion, and then we had the Wi-Fi only, which is part of the controller confusion. So 9 to 5 Google reported on the 17th of October that Stadia will require Wi-Fi to play games at launch, including on Pixels. So you had they're reporting about the Pixel event. So Pixel 2, Pixel 2 XL will support Stadia alongside the 3 and 3A and the new Pixel 4. And then there was an interview done with the Vergecast where Rick Osterloh was asked about Stadia on Pixel phones. And the Google hardware chief said that it's going to run on Wi-Fi to start, which then went down the line, and people are asking a bunch of questions. So again, it's just another point of confusion as to what is happening here. Like what do they mean by Wi-Fi to start? Does it mean that your device can only connect via Wi-Fi? Does it mean that the controller needs Wi-Fi? And it just adds to the ongoing confusion that fueled Grace from Google to finally come to Reddit and say, no, this is what we mean by Wi-Fi for the controller. But then maybe there's still some other issues that they need to clear up.
I think that, I think that this is definitely separate from the controller. I think what they're saying is, if you are out and about someplace, you are not going to be able to play on your LTE connection. And the reason I think that they're saying this, and this makes perfect sense to me, is, well, okay, I can see why people would go both ways on this, but for me, I can understand why Google would want to say, look, I know there's a lot of places where the LTE connection is terrible, and people are going to blame us if they have a bad experience when playing a game on Stadia because they're in like a dark zone. Like when I go to work, I have one bar. My phone is incredibly slow at work. If I go into the wrong room at work, I go back down to 3G. And sometimes I go back down to 1X when I'm at work. It's just because I live in a rural area and there isn't readily available really good LTE everywhere. So I think that when that happens, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this is Stadia's fault. Damn. And no, it's not Stadia's fault. It's your carrier's fault. And it's also the U.S. government's fault if you're in the U.S. because we only we basically operate with a duopoly. We have AT&T and Verizon, and that's really it. Yes, I know that there's other networks, but those networks have very, very small footprints, and they buy they're running on the other networks stuff. So I don't see. I understand why Google is doing this, and when LTE is in more places and is working better, then I'm sure that will change. Now, some people might say, well, okay, I can get around this. I can use my my phone to act as a Wi-Fi hotspot for my computer, and then my controller can connect as well, and then I'll be all set. And maybe that will work. But we don't know yet until it gets here. And you can rest assured that Lloyd and I are going to try and test all of that stuff. I have on my phone, I have a Wi-Fi hotspot plan on my phone, and I have a Chromebook. So I'm going to be testing all that out to see exactly how it will work, and I will be able to report back, and I'll put a video up here, and we'll talk about it on the show as well. What do you think, Lloyd? Do you think that this is? Do you think I'm hitting the mark here, or do you think I'm off the mark?
No, totally. I just think the whole Wi-Fi, meaning multiple things over the different products, is super confusing to people. But you laid it out perfectly fine. Like there's no way that you're going to plug your phone in through Ethernet. So you either have LTE or Wi-Fi, and if they're going to block off the LTE, that totally makes sense. I remember there was another service that did that, and I'm trying to rack my brain as to what that was, where it wouldn't work over LTE. You needed Wi-Fi, and people complained, but that went away eventually, and they were just using it for testing. I can't recall what it was. It doesn't really matter. But if they can cut down the potential failure points and points that will make people say that the service sucks. I look at how blurry it is because they have like one bar, as you said, Bill, on their LTE. That's only going to be good things for the initial few months of Google Stadia as people are building up to it. And I'm sure, like you said, into over time, that requirement will be lifted. Just like it is on other streaming services like xCloud, and I believe even PlayStation Now doesn't have any sort of limitation for the type of network that you have to be on. I'm sure Stadia will get to that point in the future.
And this also might be something where maybe Google and the LTE networks, maybe they were talking to each other about this, because I'm sure that they are, right? And maybe Google has said, well, okay, maybe because we don't want to destroy your network, here you go. Let's capitulate this, because on my phone, if an app is over a certain size, my network just won't let me download it. And they'll just say, nope, you can't download it until you are at home on Wi-Fi. If an app is over a certain size, which is ridiculous because I have unlimited internet. I should be able to download whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
But you just have to understand that unlimited is a marketing term. It is not actually unlimited, no matter what it is that they say.
Sure.
All
And
right,
it's
go ahead.
and a lot of phone users, like especially like younger phone users, they watch so much YouTube, and I mean LTE is supporting YouTube fine, perfectly fine. Maybe it's dropping to 480p for some of these videos, and maybe that's the part that Stadia doesn't want, is to be sending out video at 480p by default. There's probably a lot of issues that made this decision possible, or needed, and I'm sure, as we said, that over time this requirement will eventually just go away.
And you're not wrong about that lower resolution, because that's actually when you like, because I'm a Verizon customer, unfortunately. But yeah, see, I don't really have much of an option where I live. I'm a Verizon customer, and when we went, because my girls had really went overboard. They're both lifeguards at a local pool this summer, and they really went overboard on the data because they were sitting at work and sitting around all day and watching videos on their phones, and there's no Wi-Fi there, and they just destroyed our data plan. We were just like, oh my God. So my wife and I were like, how much does it cost? And it turns out that it was a little bit cheaper in the long run, due to me getting a veterans discount, a little bit cheaper in the long run to switch over to an unlimited plan. And for those of you listening, I'm doing air quotes, to switch over to an unlimited plan. So we decided to do that. And one of the things that they differentiate their plans by is the resolution of video that is sent to you. So if you pay more, you get a higher resolution video. And if you pay less, you get less. And while I don't think that should be allowed, it clearly is. And it irritates me. But I think that you have to remember that it's when you, and this is a disadvantage of cloud gaming, when you are dealing with cloud gaming, you're not just dealing with that one company that you're buying the games from. You are also dealing with your ISP as well as your ISP. So you're also dealing with your ISP, and that's extra limitations that get added in and kind of muck up the works, and that's definitely a disadvantage to streaming video game content. All right,
Yep.
before we get to crowd play, and we've got a bunch of it, let's take a quick break. We'll hear from a sponsor, and when we come back, it's your turn.
Buy a ColecoVision and a Coleco game cartridge by November 15th. We'll send you a free Cabbage Patch Kid by Christmas.
All right, everybody, make sure you order that by November whatever, and you get that free Cabbage Patch Kid. You want to take on this first comment from Terza Reactor?
Sure. So Terza Reactor sends a comment about Red Dead Redemption 2's frame rate. Hey, Bill, that was my initial tweet to Phil Harrison. I was shocked to get a reply. In regards to RDR2, I believe that if RDR2 is 4K 60 capable on PC, it will be on Stadia too. I can't see why they would provide a lower version when Stadia is more capable of running the game at high levels. And I'm sure the Stadia team wouldn't be happy with an inferior version, as it doesn't put their platform in the best light. It's not a good look if you're promoting Stadia as a powerful system, yet top tier games are no better looking than an Xbox One X version. I think RDR2 is 4K 60, but we'll have to wait and see. If it isn't, to me, that is a major fail. So great comment from Terza Reactor, and we were talking about that a lot in the chat room during last episode, where people are like, no, it's not going to be 4K 60, it's not going to look good, and everybody, including me, was like, no, it's going to be 4K 60. It's going every game that runs on Stadia is going to be 4K 60 at the source level. Whether it looks as good as high-end PCs, I mean, they haven't said that because they can't control that, obviously. But I have no reason to doubt that Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be looking as beautiful as it does on PCs. And then thankfully we got some notes this week that it is indeed 4K 60, and it looks as good as it looks on any platform. And they released some really interesting images from it, which just make it look like it's real life, which is just ridiculous how good this game looks.
Was this after the initial confusion, because they had tweeted out that Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be running at 4K 60, and then that tweet was deleted?
Oh, okay. I saw one from Stadia's account.
Yeah, it was
last
from
week.
Stadia's account, and then that tweet was eventually deleted, and that's why I ended up making that video about what resolution will Red Dead Redemption 2 come in. So that's where the confusion lies, is because the tweet was tweeted and then taken back down. Now, I do think that that we'll probably have it at 4K 60. I agree with what Terza Reactor here is saying, that if it can run on PC, here's a thing I have to address though. There's a lot of people that say, oh, they're just going to take the PC version and put it on Stadia. It's different hardware, which means that everything has to be done differently. It's not simply you just install the game on Stadia hardware. They have to remake the game, recompile the game specifically with that hardware in mind. So a lot of people, they kind of get mixed up on this. It's not the way it works. They have to redo it for that game now, or for that hardware. I do think that it will be 4K 60. However, it is possible that that games will not run 4K 60 on Stadia, and that's what Phil Harrison tweeted. He said, I'm trying to remember exactly his phrasing, but he said, for artistic reasons, some developers may choose to go 4K 30, but every stream will be 4K 60, and they will just send every frame twice in order to give you that same that same experience.
Right.
And I think that he's giving some companies an out for when they want to port their games to Stadia, right, but not put in all the extra work that it would require to optimize. Like, look, a lot of times these companies, they make a game and now they've started working on some other game, and then this new platform comes out and they're like, we can sell to those customers as well, but we don't want to go above and beyond because we're busy working on new stuff now. So let's port our old stuff over. We'll have a small team port that old stuff over, and then once they've got it running, they'll come back and work with us over here on the new hotness that they're working on. And I think that that's what Phil Harrison was saying. He's just saying, look, I'm giving these guys an out for when they port.
Right.
I do believe that every new game that comes to Stadia will probably be 4K 60, or in the future, even higher resolution and frame rates, like they said when they first announced it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that if Stadia's tweeting it out, they've been playing this game for a while. They know that it is in fact running at 4K 60, and maybe it's for marketing reasons why that tweet was taken down. Maybe it's uh, Red Dead saying, "Hey, no, take that down, please. We Rockstar doesn't want this tweet out here yet. We don't want to cannibalize any of the PC sales. We don't want to make people that are buying it on console now feel bad. Maybe it's just a marketing reason, but." During one of the presentations, they said at a source level, the blades are rendering almost everything at 4K 60. Whether the engine is set to do 4K 60 by default, I guess that they're going to give developers some control over that. So I personally, I don't have any doubts that it is indeed going to be 4K 60 at launch, but we'll see really soon. We'll be able to see that for ourselves really soon.
In less than a month.
In less than a month. And for me, I don't have any 4K screens, so it doesn't matter if it's 4K 60, but I know a lot of people do. So yeah, it's gonna be big for those folks.
We got a comment on YouTube from Icor D. Dianosis. Sorry for pronouncing your name like that. I probably screwed it up. They said, what I think, as they announced it now, and it did not come up earlier, that this is the reason. They are already, and this is in response to the controller confusion. They said, they're already struggling to get everything ready by November 19th, that they threw stuff out of their launch roadmap. Stuff like setting screens where you would select your input source. So Stadia does not know which PC that I want to play on, the keyboard or the controller. This is way easier to decide if you check if a controller is connected to your PC or not. If it's connected, use the controller. If not, use the keyboard. I guess this is harder with the controller from a UX perspective. They have less to show. And I totally get what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense. This idea that they haven't figured out, and it's weird that they're shipping without figuring it out, but it's Google. They do everything out in the open. They're shipping this without having yet figured out how does the service know which screen I'm working on? How does it know? Like, how do if I decide to stop playing on my PC and pick up my controller and go to the next room and go to the Chromecast, how does it know where to send that stuff? So that might be an issue, and their solution right now, until they figure that out, is to make it so the only wireless way is via the Chromecast. So that's a possibility as well.
Yep.
You want to read it? Go ahead. You want to read this Twitter DM from Klaus?
Yeah. So Klaus sent in a Twitter DM. Hey guys, few questions for your brilliant Stadiacast show. Love it, by the way. The free games you get with a pro subscription, do you think those will be from an existing catalog or new games arriving? Do you have to be a pro subscriber the minute the free game is given in order to get it, or can you as a base subscriber get that game for free if you go pro in the days afterwards? Cheers from Denmark, Klaus. So thanks, Klaus, for sending that in. Thanks for the comments on the show as well, by the way. So there's really two questions there. I'll answer the second one first. You have to be a pro subscriber the minute a free game is given. I don't think so. At least that's not how the industry goes. So if you're if there's free games coming to Xbox One or PlayStation Plus, and you want that game, you basically just have to buy that service before the month runs out or whatever the cutoff is, and then download that game to add it to your library. And then you own that game for as long as you are a member of that service, whether you're an Xbox Live or a PlayStation Plus member. I would assume, just going by what the industry has been doing, that Stadia Pro is going to run the exact same way. If you want to get whatever Bob's Funhouse is the next game that comes out, and you really want Bob's Funhouse, you just have to subscribe to Stadia Pro before that game leaves the service or leaves that period of being free with Pro, and then it'll be added to your library, and that will be it. So I think that's probably it. And then I don't know, Bill, what do you think? Do you think these are all going to be existing catalog games or new games? Personally, I think it's going to be a mixture of both, just like it has been on other services.
I think it's going to be a mixture of both, and I think that okay, here's what I hope. I don't know if it'll happen or not, but what my hope is that Google will say their first party stuff is all included with Stadia Pro. that would blow the doors off stuff. Like if they've got Jade Raymond and her team and all these other devs that they've been bringing in to make first party stuff. If all of the first party stuff comes with Stadia Pro, that is going to make Stadia Pro a very, very compelling purchase for a lot of people. So that's what I'm hoping for. Do I expect it? I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50. I'm really not sure what they will do. And there's no indication from Google yet as to when we're going to hear about any first party stuff. I know that there's a lot of people who say, well, they just started. I think that they started a long time ago, and they just started adding new members to the team that weren't doing stuff before. So I expect that we will find out some first party stuff. Maybe not this year, but I'm going to make a guess that we will have a first party game to go along with the official launch, not the beta test that we're doing, but the official launch, which comes in 2020. And I think that'll be February next year.
Yeah, that's a good prediction. I think that's the way it's going to go too. I mean, Xbox has shown us every Xbox game now is free if you have a subscription to their Game Pass service. So what is it? The Outer Worlds is coming out on Thursday of next week, of this coming week. If you're a Games Pass owner, you get it for free. You can play it for free as long as you're a member. I could see Stadia doing a similar thing, because that is a really good way to get millions of people spending $10 a month to be a member of your service, is by just giving them free content. And it's working really well for Microsoft, apparently. So maybe that'll be something that Stadia does.
Chuck's in chat asks, do you think that there will be super sampling for 4K on 1080p monitors? I have to admit, I am not a hardware guy. What is super sampling? Do you know?
Yeah, so what super sampling will do is it's done a lot in like VR, for example, where you are basically able to process different parts of the screen separately from other areas. So super sampling is when you're playing a game, you could potentially have like the main character would be super sampled. So you get rid of a lot of the anti-aliasing stuff that you get. So you get like the jaggies or the shrouds or the weird lighting effects that would be around your character at 1080p. So what you do is you super sample them at 4K and then shrink them down. So all of the quality loss you get for having it at 1080p goes away, because you're actually rendering it at a higher resolution and then shrinking it down. It's kind of the I don't know, 20,000 mile in the air kind of idea of what super sampling is. So you can make certain parts of the screen better, or you can make the whole screen better. And I think that's what the Xbox One X does. Is a lot of games they'll render at 4K and then shrink them down as an option for some of the games. So it's interesting. I don't see why they wouldn't do it. Like if what they've said previously is true, where they're going to be rendering games at higher resolution and then shrinking them down for the data feed that's coming to you, potentially every game is going to be super sampled at 480k or 4K 60 frames a second, if that's the case.
Honestly, right now, this show is being super sampled, because I broadcast this show at 1080p, and I know that there are people out there who watch the show and they're watching on their mobile device and they're watching it at 480p. So they are getting super sampled already from YouTube. It's just called transcoding. So it's definitely going to be something that is going to happen. I'm 99% sure that we are going to have super sampling. And I don't think it's important for Google to tell people that, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What really matters, people always get so focused on this has this many teraflops and this is the resolution and this is the frames per second. What really matters is the game fun and is the game playable? And if those two things, if the answer to those two questions is yes, then you're golden. And let's take a quick second to thank Shivendra Singh for their super chat. They said, have been listening since the first episode. Keep up the good work. I feel Stadia is the future, but it will take some time for it to mature. And I'm I completely agree. I do think streaming is the future. Whether or not a Stadia is beyond is beside the point. I think streaming video games is the future, and I do think it is going to take time to mature. I'm excited to be here at the forefront of it, though.
Yep, exactly.
We gotta
Awesome.
Go ahead.
I was gonna just continue on, but I cut you off. I'm sorry, Bill. Smashblock sends in a tweet. Stadiacast, after the Google event, we found out that Daydream is dead. I'm disappointed. I would have loved to have played Google Stadia on my Pixel 3 phone with Daydream View. Do you think they have something planned to replace this, or is Daydream gone for good? That's interesting. That's very interesting. What do you have to say on that, Bill?
Well, first off, I want to make sure everybody knows what Daydream is. Daydream was this thing where you could have a little plastic thing and put your phone in it, and it was their version of VR with your phone,
Yep.
which is cool. I was surprised to see it taken away, especially after we kind of talked about either last week or the week before of how sure we weren't gonna. I still don't think we're gonna get VR games on Stadia anytime soon, but. You could essentially use Daydream and have a fake 60-inch screen in front of you that you're playing on this huge screen through VR. Like, that is definitely a possibility. And then they just kill Daydream. I understand why they killed Daydream. It's not popular and it wasn't making them any money. So I can understand why they would kill it. But...
Yep.
I did think that this was possibly a use case for it, something that would prop it up. That being said, I'm not sure how the Daydream headset worked, if there was a spot where you could have a wire go into the side or not, because it's only wired, so maybe that's why. Do we think that they're going to have something new? I don't know. I can't pretend to guess at what Google is going to do. Every time I do, I am proven very, very wrong.
Right. Well, they had that patent that was for more like goggly type VR headsets. So instead of like the big box that you strap to your face with wires and duct tape, it was more that looked almost like swimming goggles is what the image looked like.
Yeah.
So whether that is real or not, or just a mock-up, companies will patent everything that they're developing because they hope that in the future, if they don't make it, someone else will, and they'll pay the patent fees for it. But if you could get smaller goggles that can basically wirelessly pair to a phone, or even better, have Wi-Fi to get your video source from Google Stadia, you don't need as much hardware inside of there. So it's possible that in the future, I wouldn't expect it in 2020, maybe 2022, but we'll see. You could get your Ready Player One experience where you basically strap these things on and you're dumped right into a game world, and you can play stuff that way. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see, I would think.
So real quick, I got a tweet from Chris. They said, actually, I like their name. Their name is I Am a Lawyer. They said, what I'm a little troubled by is the phrasing that I can only use the Stadia controller on the Chromecast. Here I thought I'd be able to use my Xbox controller with paddles. So much hate. Well, you have to keep in mind that the Chromecast itself, Chromecast Ultra, does not have built-in Bluetooth, so there would be no way for your Xbox fancy controller with the paddles to connect to that. It also doesn't have a USB port, so you can't connect to it either. And I speak from experience because I have one in the other room. So I have a Chromecast Ultra, and you just can't plug anything into it. So I understand why you would be frustrated by that, but guess what? You will be able to use your Xbox controller with the paddles, just not on a TV. You can use it on a Chromebook, you can use it on a PC, you can use it on whatever your controller can hook to that is that can access Stadia, that you can use it. So I think that in this case you're expecting a little too much. In you have to understand that there's hardware limitations.
Yeah, and they said early on that the Chromecast would only work with the Stadia controller.
Yeah.
Because there's no place to add in to connect USB, and that was the only other way. It's either Wi-Fi Stadia controller or USB for keyboard and mouse, and then all the other controllers. Whether it's going to support them out of the box at launch, who knows? For other platforms, but we know that it either requires a Wi-Fi Stadia controller or a USB connected HID device. So not super surprising, but I can see why Chris would be disappointed. The Xbox controllers or PlayStation controllers that have all the paddles and they cost a small fortune. I know you want to get your investments worth when you play video games. When you buy a $200 controller, you want to use it with everything. Sadly, that doesn't seem to be something you can do right at launch.
I don't think you'll ever be able to use it with a Chromecast, though.
For sure, yeah, but I'm talking more of like PC, whether you're going to be able to connect it and use it on the PC properly without any issues. At launch, I wouldn't assume so, but who knows?
Yeah. Stadia UK just threw $5 at us, or £5, because they're in the UK. I'm sorry. They said, people need to have faith. I found a video of me playing on live beta in 2011, and I launched into a game in 10 seconds. Google will be fine. Thank you very much for the support, and I agree. This is going to work. I do think that this is going to work, and it's going to surprise a lot of people. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. A lot of the negativity towards Stadia out there, and I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of it is people who know the negativity gets more clicks. So they're posting all this negative stuff, and I guarantee what we're going to see once it comes out and people are using it, you're going to see a lot of these same people who made these videos that they were like, oh, they got their hand on their face and they're saying how awful it's going to be. They're going to say, they're going to have an I was wrong about, because I was wrong about stuff gets a lot of clicks too. This is them exploiting the YouTube algorithm in order to make money. And that's not anything you're going to see here on Stadiacast, because Lloyd and I are just always going to be honest about it. I'm not saying that everybody who's negative is being dishonest, but I think that a lot of them are. And speaking of exploiting the YouTube algorithm, we've got like 130 people in here. Only 38 people have liked the video so far. If you could do us a favor and hit that like button, that would really help us out. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe and click the bell, because that tells the algorithm that we're awesome. So there you go. Lloyd, is there anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I've been reading the chat room. I've been answering in line while we're chatting. A lot of people are debating whether Stadia is more PC or more a console. So that was a fun talk. But yeah, no, nothing else to add. I don't believe.
I think maybe next week that would be a good conversation to have.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's cue that one up for next week.
All right. Florian Zal says, will there be a Stadiacast Destiny 2 clan? Yes, there will. I'm excited about that game, and I've never played it, and I got it for free through my PS4 through their Pro subscription or whatever it's called, and I still haven't played it. I'm looking forward to playing that on Stadia. So yes, I will be making a Destiny 2 clan for Stadiacast. Aaron Elizondo says, I was watching the video on Stadia and it said that you need the Stadia app to connect to the controller. I was wondering if it will come out at launch and if it will be available for iPhone. The connection app will be available for iPhone, but you won't be able to play on iPhone right away at launch. That's something that's going to be coming later. But thank you, everybody, for all of the support. Like the oh my God, we just doubled our likes. You guys are awesome. Thank you. That's awesome. Are you ready to get out of here, Lloyd?
I think so, Bill.
All right. Follow the show on Twitter at Stadiacast. Follow me at Run Jump Stomp. Follow him at DASME. That's Dasme. And be sure to use that hashtag Stadiacast so we can find your tweets, because Lloyd and I have other shows. Speaking of other shows, I relaunched a show that is just 5-minute blips of my thoughts about something in the gaming industry, maybe not every day, but multiple times a week. And I'm going to be recording it all on my phone and posting that. And you can find that show by going to anchor.fm/runjumpstomp. And in addition to that, November 5th, I've got a brand new show come out. Lloyd has actually guested on this show, and it's called 143 Pixels. So I will let you know more about that. I'm going to be trying to hype that up. On November 5th is when episode 1 of that show will come out, and I'm really excited for that show. Join the Stadiacast Discord over at runjumpstomp.com/Discord. And while you're already joining Discords, Lloyd, where can they find your Discord?
You can join it at resd.tv/Discord. Resd is REZD.tv.
And the music you're about to hear is Subterranean Kamikaze by Zircon. Check out their stuff at zirconstudios.bandcamp.com. Lloyd, I'll see you next week, man.
Have a great one, everybody.
All right, we're back. At least I think we're back. I can't see it because I just covered it up while I'm saving. Are we back?
I think we're back. There's a delay. Yeah, we're back.
Okay, cool. Oh, that was a really fun show, man.
It was good. That was good. Lots to talk about.
I don't know how we somehow get under an hour or right at an hour every single week. And like it's not like, I mean, of course I want it to be about that length, but I don't know how we manage it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's one of those things. We've both done shows forever, and we like to keep them to about an hour. So I think we just have like an inherent feeling as when things are going along, and we either talk faster or self edit and get some of that stuff that we don't want to talk about out of there. So yeah, I think it's good. This was a good one. A lot of FUD, a lot of confusion out there. So be able to address it and hopefully clear up some of those confusing parts is going to be good for the community.
Dot Stripe in chat says only where did it go? Because I moved screens. Only 4 more shows until Stadia is released. That's right. 4 more shows.
That makes it feel real, Bill.
I know. Daniel Ager says, so confused about how gameplay will work with Pixel. What are you confused about? I don't. And Lloyd, do you want to hang out and answer questions and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I don't have anywhere to go to right now. So gameplay will work with Pixel is if you have a Stadia controller, you plug it in through USB. USB-C. And that's it. So you have a USB connection between your controller and your phone, and then you can play the games that way. There's no Wi-Fi, not at launch anyway.
Florian Zoll says, and John Justice promised to come on Stadiacast before launch again, didn't he? No, he did not. I have reached out to, not John, because I don't want to flood his inbox, but I reached out to our go-between and said, would love to talk to John again, or anybody from the Stadia team, and I haven't heard back, but they're super busy trying to launch this brand new platform. So I don't anticipate hearing back for a long time.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. They're busy making the bits to like 4K 60. That's a lot of bits. So they have to hand make all those bits lovingly and get them ready for launch.
They should make okay. Have you watched the Larian Studios videos? They're the people who are making Baldur's Gate 3.
Some of them. I don't like to watch a lot of stuff on games that I'm excited about because I don't like trailers because it ruins things for me. So I like to go in black.
It's not trailers. It's them being doofy. Like they're just being goofballs. Like sneaking into places and stealing things and wearing, like, stealing the Dungeons and Dragons guidebooks or something from whatever. I think that Stadia needs to make something like that where they're like Each bit is handcrafted by an artisan, blah blah. Like, well, that would be hilarious. And I think
They
it
need
would
to get the Dunkin'. They need to get the Dunkin' Donuts guy, and he wakes up in the morning, time to make the pixels, and he gets up and he goes to some store and he's just like hammering out ones and zeros. That would be great.
That would be awesome. Is that guy still around? Because that guy was
I don't
old when
know.
I was a kid.
I don't know. They could have someone cosplaying as him, maybe.
That's true. Freno Walta said we forgot to mention the UK Founders Edition sold out.
Oh, totally.
I did, and not only did I forget to mention it here, but I also forgot to talk about it on the 2 videos that I posted this week. And each time it was like on a tab on my browser that I was going to look at, and I just forget because whenever I'm making a show or making a video or something, it's just all off the cuff because I can't script things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough.
Go ahead.
It's tough to do what you do. Like if you guys have not heard any of Bill's other shows, he's a solo man. So he talks for like a half hour right at the camera. And I don't understand how you can do that as well as you do. I did the Nintendo Pulse this past week and Steven had a power outage. So halfway through, I had no co-host. So I took his video down and continued on. But so much of my show is me planning for pauses and throwing things at him so that I can do other things. And that other person wasn't there. It was awkward, man. And I don't know how you do it. I guess it's habit. That's how you do things. But it just blows me away every single time.
I was actually on an episode of Podcast Insider. We recorded it yesterday, and it's coming out sometime this week with Todd Cochran, who owns Blueberry. So I was on that with him, and I kind of talked about that it stems from being a teacher. Because being a teacher, I have to run the show for 40 minutes, or at one school that I taught at, it was 80 minutes. So being able to do that is just something that I've been doing for 15 years, so it makes it easier for me because I have lots and lots of practice. Brandon Harmon says, can you talk about, is there a feature like streaming going to be there on launch? Or the chat talk about this too. I'm not sure what you're saying, but I think they're saying, can you stream from Stadia? And I'm 90% sure that that's a launch thing. Like you're going to be able to just hit the share button on the controller and start streaming straight to YouTube, right?
Yeah, I believe so. And it will just be the screen that you're playing. It won't be any. I don't believe it's going to have voice, but maybe it'll be able to have voice built in, but it definitely won't have like your picture. It won't have your face cam unless you set up OBS on your computer and are doing it through a web browser.
Right. And we talked to John Justice about that when he interviewed on the show. So go back to, was it episode 23? I think it was episode 23. Somebody in chat will correct us because they're awesome. Efren Andalis Jr. says, has there been a Stadia Connect event that's been announced yet? There has not. Lloyd, do you think we're going to get one before launch? I think we will.
There has to be.
Or maybe that day.
Yeah, I would think like a week or two before launch saying, this is it. This is what's coming. We're launching on the 19th and here you go. And then here's new game announcement. Here's new hardware feature. Here's new this. Here's new that. It would make sense for them to do something like that for sure.
Shivendra Singh says it's sold out in the Netherlands as well. Vaxxer says, and people still say it's scripted. Shut up, Vaxxer. Go ahead. You were going to say something, Lloyd?
No, just laughing.
Oh, okay. Just scrolling through chat and seeing what people were saying. Man, you guys are amazing. Like so many people were here. By the way, if you guys didn't know, Lloyd also streams live on Twitch, and you can follow him over at twitch.tv/RezdTV, REZDTV. He's going to type a link in chat right now, and I'm going to type a link in chat right now. Twitch, do I have to do the HTTP?
For it to be clickable, yes.
Twitch.tv/RunJumpStomp. And we both have YouTube channels, which I think a lot of people probably have not checked out yet. At least I know that a lot of people have not checked mine out yet. And mine is actually, they're both linked, probably over there someplace. But I'm going to type in mine right now. Lloyd, go ahead and type yours as well so that people know. Although it's really easy. It's youtube.com/whatever I can't see it. Oh my god, I was trying to type youtube.com and I typed utecom / run jump stomp. So if you guys could go and follow those channels as well, that would be awesome, and we would really appreciate it.
Definitely.
Fenno Walta says, I think it would be great to have an official roadmap at launch or the next Connect. It would bring some clarity to the community and reviewers, and I completely agree. Here's something that I find interesting. So have you ever used Terminal.io, Lloyd?
Yeah.
Okay. So Terminals.io is a website where content creators like Lloyd and I can get access to video games early through, you put in a request and then they send you a code and then you can play that game and then you can talk about it or make a video about it or whatever. And there's nothing on there for Stadia. And then there's this other site that I was going to and I can't remember the name of it. And
Key
they
Miller?
have no, it's something else. And they have Apple Arcade stuff, but they don't have anything on there for Stadia. And I'm starting to wonder, like, what is going to be the method that people are going to use? Because there's only a month away. Maybe nobody's putting anything on for Stadia because we can't try anything until the hardware's here anyway. So I don't know. That's
probably what it is, or maybe the whole promo code review code thing isn't ready. Maybe that whole system is coming later. Yeah, it really shows how Google launches products. They kind of like, here's the bare bones vanilla version, and then a month later it's like, okay, now it's vanilla with chocolate chips, and it's like, okay, now here's vanilla with chocolate chips and we got some chocolate sauce on it. And then you can also have caramel sauce on it if you really choose, if you want to have that as a choice. And they just keep iterating on their product over and over and over again. So it's pretty exciting because it means that potentially we could have new features added every month or two, just other stuff that's going to make the service better.
Shavendra says they should release a phone holder for seamless play with the controller. You're going to see hundreds of those being made by everybody. They should make an official one. They should. But you're going to see these everywhere. You're going to see them on Etsy. You're going to see them all over the place because people are going to come up with a design and 3D print it, and then they're going to brand that 3D printed thing and just ship those. So you're not gonna have any trouble finding that. Izian, I don't know how to say your name, man, says, can I ask you guys a question about Stadia? That's the whole reason we're here, man. Ask questions. Now the suspense is killing me. See, Vaxxer
that was his
does
question.
Yes, Vaxxer does this to me all the time. He'll be like, can I ask a question? I'm like, stop asking to ask a question. Just ask.
We do that at the dinner table. It's a habit my son has. He's like, hey, Dad, can I ask you a question? And I just go, nope. And leave it. And it's like, oh. And then he just comes right out with the actual question. And yeah, that works.
What have you been playing while we're waiting for this question?
I've been so busy. The only game that I've been spending any sort of real time with, or actually no, there's two things. I've been playing Dragon Quest 11S. I'm about 50 hours into that and love every minute that I've been spending with it. That's kind of my decompressing after a busy day at work, after spending time with the family and stuff before bed. I'll play a couple hours of that. But also been playing a hell of a lot of Fortnite Chapter 2. I love what they've done with Fortnite, and I've been enjoying that a lot.
I'm just going to say, IZNOQ, they said, is there a possibility that Stadia could support VR games? I think there's a possibility in 5 years. And I don't anticipate it happening faster than that, just because I don't think that you're going to get the latency low enough. And I know that there's people who have said that they've done it before. I don't see it happening. I don't think it's ready there yet, but I could be wrong. Lloyd, do you think I'm wrong?
I don't think you're wrong. I think who knows? Maybe it'll come a little bit quicker. It's all VR is all about latency. So people get really sick if you turn your head and the picture that you see is delayed because it confuses your brain, and that's where people are getting a lot of the motion sickness from. So I've played some VR games that had really poor frame rate, but as long as I keep my head straight, I'm fine. But as soon as I'm like moving my head or using the controls to kind of change my view, that's when I start get motion sickness. So to have the lag, the latency from your computer, your whatever, going to the cloud and then back, I just think there's going to be too much latency there. So when internet speeds increase, when latency goes down, that could potentially make VR more viable for a lot more people, because there are people that have zero motion sickness. They can have the framiest game ever, and their body is just like, I'm always confused anyway, so why is this any different? But the vast majority of people, if there's any sort of disconnect between your movement and what you see on screen, your brain gets confused and then you get motion sickness.
And I get motion sickness in real life, like all the time. I can't, if I'm in a car and I'm not the one driving, after about a mile and a half, I will feel incredibly queasy. And it's the frame rate in real life is pretty damn good. So I still get motion sickness. So some people are always going to suffer from that affliction, and there's nothing that you're going to be able to do about it. And I'm one of those people who VR probably won't ever really work for me because I get sick in real life. Caleb Richardson, have any other free-to-play games been announced beside Destiny 2? I specifically asked John Justice what's going on with free-to-play games, and he said we haven't announced free-to-play games yet. And technically, Destiny 2 is not a free-to-play game because while, yes, you can play the game for free, like the expansion is what you're getting with Destiny 2. So
that's right.
You're getting the expansion with Stadia, I mean. So they haven't announced any free-to-play games on Stadia yet. I really, really want to hear. I want Fortnite. I want Rocket League. Although Rocket League's not currently free to play, I think it's going to go that way. I want free to play games to come to Stadia because some free to play games are awesome. Some free to play games are really good. Just like Lloyd was talking about, he loves Fortnite. Fortnite is a free to play game, and there's people who will say that they can't make any money from that. So why would they do it? Microtransactions are why they would do it. Like Apple doesn't make any money when you play Fortnite on the phone, but as soon as you start buying microtransactions, they take a 30% cut every single time. Now there'll be people who will say, but once you download Fortnite and start playing it, it doesn't cost Apple any money to let you play that game. And that is a very good point, because eventually, or not eventually, but on Stadia, when you're playing on Stadia, that is going to cost Google money, because that means they have to reserve a blade for you. So they do need to make money from that, but I think it's going to work out just fine. I do believe that we will get free-to-play games, but it bothers me they haven't said anything about that yet. Lloyd?
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I assume it's going to be there at some point. I wonder if they're going to limit it to people that are Stadia Pro, just because for the reason that you said, Bill. Like if they launch the free version of Stadia and it's like, yep, Fortnite's free to play, max resolution for every single person and one account, here you go. You're going to have a million people that are going to click that link immediately, and it's possible that Google's not going to have enough hardware to satisfy that. So they're going to have to limit that somehow. And whether it's you need a pro subscription or you need some other status to be able to play those free-to-play games, it'll be interesting to see how that gets rolled out, because they can't say here's all these free-to-play games and you can play them for free just by clicking a link on YouTube. Like there's just not enough hardware in the world for the number of gamers that are going to want to do that.
Yeah, and so I think it makes sense for them to put that behind the pro subscription, at least in my opinion. Kyle for the win says, do you plan on having another interview with John Justice? I mean, yes, please. We just have to wait for them to not be super swamped and super busy. They're trying as hard as they can to get this working. Shavendra says they already said no. No, we didn't say no. We would love to. We're just waiting to hear. We're
Exactly.
We don't want to hassle people.
Ben
Go ahead.
Baldivia in the chat room says, considering all users will be able to stream via YouTube, that means they can make money. They can make ad revenue by people watching the streams, and that is 100% true. But it doesn't get over the main problem, which is the physical hardware that you need to play Stadia. Like Apple releases an app on the App Store. They've already released all the hardware, and there's a piece of hardware for every user because you've bought that piece of hardware. For Google Stadia, there is X number of pieces of hardware in a cloud somewhere across the globe, and if there's more users than that hardware, there's going to be lines to get in and play games. And what you don't want is that to happen, because as soon as xCloud came out with the free beta or PlayStation Now dropped their price, you're getting people that are posting screenshots saying this is crap, and it shows like a waiting like a line. You're number 3 in place, and we estimate it's going to take an hour to play insert game name here. Stadia doesn't want that at all at launch, so they're going to have to go really slow to get free to play games in, even knowing that they're going to be able to make money eventually. It's more the physical limitation of the amount of hardware that they have in the cloud, and they're going to have to slowly ramp up to that. However they're going to do it, whether they're free to play games maybe can only use a certain percentage of a blade, and then you can have multiple games running on the same blade. Like there could be some sort of concession that they're going to have to do with free to play game developers.
And the thing that we have to remember is at launch, the servers are going to be getting hammered nonstop. But as time goes on, like people will go back to their regular habits. And so not everybody will be hitting the servers at the same time. It'll be more spread out. We see this all the time in MMO games. So I do think that eventually we're going to get there, but it's going to take time.
Definitely.
Brandon, go ahead.
I was going to say it might take the second generation of blades to come out, so they could take all those Gen 1 blades and have them still in the data centers, and they're essentially doubling the amount of hardware that is in the cloud for people. Maybe that will be when free to play stuff is free to play on Stadia without some other subscription to limit those number of users.
Brandon is asking in the chat, what names are you going to use so we can play together? I'm not telling anybody what I'm going to use right now because I don't want anybody to take it. But I'm actually not sure. Like, I haven't decided what I want to go with for branding reasons, if that makes sense. I really have no idea. It really depends on how streaming is going to work. I still have questions about how streaming will work. Like, can I stream? Like, can I pick my name and then stream from wherever I want? So let's say that I pick one name. Can I then stream on this channel? Or do I have to stream on some other channel? Like, that is a huge question that I need answered before I can figure out what name I'm going to pick. And I worry that they're not going to tell us.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Founders' names being unique is going to make it really tough. So if I want to go with Dasmi, maybe someone else in the world is going to get it before me. So there's no way to predict what that's going to be. If you're not a founder, you can have an unlimited number of people, or I guess you can have 10,000 people using the same name, because it's your name, hashtag or pound, and then 4 numbers after it, and they're not unique. So it's going to be interesting knowing, like, if someone from Google's out there and wants to allow us to register early, then we can come out and say it. Otherwise, we don't know. It'll be kind of how this rollout stuff happens, so whether we're going to get the names we want or not.
Please, Google. Please. Young Kizin Powers says, any other news about Uplay and Stadia? 2020. That's what John Justice said when we interviewed him. He said 2020 is when we would hear more information about that. Vaxxer says that my name is going to be Noob Slayer 6000. Isn't that who Thor had to yell at in the Avengers movie?
I believe it was, yeah.
That's too funny. All right. It seems like the questions are starting to wind down. Ed Elliott says, will net neutrality ruin Stadia? I don't know if is that a big deal in Canada?
No, no, it isn't. I mean, I keep getting this question like at work and in real life when I'm talking to friends. They're like, "Oh yeah, but data caps, man." And I'm like, "Do you watch YouTube? Do you stream Netflix? Like, you're already consuming the same amount of data that you will if you're playing Stadia. So if you spend 2 hours a night watching YouTube, but instead you're going to convert that over to 2 hours a night playing Stadia, well, it's the same amount of bits. Like you're still using the pipe to get that content down to you. So for most people that aren't changing their habits, there's going to be no issues. But if you are still going to have other people in your house doing 2 hours a night of YouTube, and then you're doing 2 hours a night of Stadia on top of that, potentially that could run into some issues down the road for sure.
In the US, however, it is a real issue because like the FCC is run by this guy named Ajit Pai, and he is basically a mouthpiece for the ISPs and stuff. And he net neutrality is one of the most important things right now, and nobody pays attention to it because it's not sexy and it's not cool, and it is going to cost people a lot more money in the future to get what we should all be getting. If you look at Lloyd, how much do you pay a month for internet?
I pay $100 a month.
I don't remember how much it is, but I pay a lot more than that. Like a lot
really?
more. Oh, yes. Internet in the U.S. is far more expensive than it is in other places. And if you go to like UK, where that's a very small country, they have like 8 different ISPs. I have the option of one ISP. That is the only ISP that is in this area that gives you speeds that you would want. Sure, I could go with DSL, but God, that would be slow. I can still go with dial-up here. Again, super slow. I can get satellite internet, but if I want to have a real internet the way that everybody else in the world has, I have one option, and that means they can charge me whatever the hell they want. And net neutrality keeps that stuff in check. But right now, we do not have net neutrality because it's been struck down by the FCC. So that's very irritating.
Yeah, I used to pay I think it was $50 a month, but that was because they had like hard limits for the bandwidth. So that was like the most that I could get. Then they keep adding faster plans. So I'm currently at 600 megabit down and 30 megabit up, and that's the $100 a month. But I could drop down to I think $40 a month to get, I think it's 100 megabit down and 10 megabit up, I think, which would still be fine for Stadia. So I mean, it could be really cheap for me to use the internet, but I want to stream, and the upstream bandwidth is always limited, which is why I have to pay more, which kind of drives me insane. But what are you going to do?
Ben Baldavia says, I think that has far more to do with population density in combination with the cost of infrastructure. And I can understand why you would think that, but these companies, in the US at least, they were given massive tax breaks. The taxpayers helped pay to build this infrastructure, and then they get to profit off it, which is ridiculous. Don't get me started on net neutrality. I wrote papers about it in college. It makes me mad. I get mad.
You got to do a podcast on it. I want to see Mad Bill.
Oh, no, you do not want. I don't want to be mad, so I don't want to think about it. It makes me sad. All right. Well, guys, I think that I'm going to go outside. It's starting to get cloudy, so I worry that it's going to start raining, and that would make me sad. Thank you all for being here and hanging out with Lloyd and I. You guys are awesome. If you haven't already, hit that like button before you leave. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell. Let's YouTube know that we're doing a good thing over here. Lloyd, I'll see you next week, man. Wait, when are you actually gone?
I'll Discord you.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when I'm not going to be around.
All right. See you, everybody.
Later, everybody. Have a good rest of your week.